The crisp white tablecloth seemed to mock me, each gleaming fold a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing within. Across the table, Andrea, my wife, sat bathed in the warm glow of the restaurant's chandeliers, her beauty as radiant as ever. Yet, a disquiet hung in the air, thicker than the aroma of expensive wine. I'd planned this evening meticulously. A celebration, I'd thought, a toast to our success. The diamond necklace, the one she'd admired, lay nestled in its velvet box, waiting to adorn her delicate neck. But the sparkle in her eyes wasn't the reflection of diamonds, it was a nervous flicker I couldn't decipher. Her usual playful banter was replaced by strained silences, her gaze darting around the room as if seeking an escape. When she finally spoke, her voice, normally a melodious symphony, was a hesitant tremor. "Honey," she began, "there's something ... double quotes." My heart pounded against my ribs. Was this it, the moment we'd talked about, the decision to start our family? But the shadow that crossed her face, the way her eyes refused to meet mine, spoke of a different reality. "I need to find out who I am," she continued, each word a tiny pinprick to my soul. Outside of us, the world tilted on its axis. "What are you saying?" I managed, the question a strangled whisper. "I want to see other people, Rob." The word struck me like a physical blow. My blood ran cold, the elegant surroundings blurring into a kaleidoscope of confusion and betrayal. "Other people," I echoed, the raw disbelief in my voice tearing through the pretense of calm. "You mean ... other men?" A hesitant nod, a bitten lip, and the confirmation I dreaded. "Yes, the restaurant, the carefully chosen wine, the diamond necklace, all of it dissolved into meaninglessness. My wife, the woman I loved, wanted an open marriage. And in that instant, the foundation of our life together crumbled. The conversation that followed was a blur of hurt and anger, her pleas for understanding met with my rising tide of indignation. How could she expect me to accept this? How could she believe that love could be so casually shared? As the night wore on, the chasm between us widened. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I loved, had become a stranger. And as I stared across the table at her, I knew that even if our relationship survived this, it would never be the same. The Greasy Spoon Diner, with its faded vinyl booths and the smell of burnt coffee, was a far cry from the elegant restaurant I'd stormed out of the night before. But the anonymity was a comfort. No judging eyes, no whispers following me. Just the clatter of plates and the murmur of morning chatter. Over a plate of lukewarm eggs and a bottomless cup of coffee, I tried to piece together the wreckage of my life. Andrea's words echoed in my head, each repetition a fresh wound. "Explore herself," she'd said. "It will make me a better partner." Lies, all of it. Or was it? Maybe there was something I didn't understand, some hidden pain driving her to this desperate measure. But the thought of her with another man, the images that conjured, were unbearable. No, I couldn't accept it. Open marriage, polyamory, whatever they called it, it wasn't for me. My love for Andrea was absolute, possessive even. The idea of sharing her, of her giving herself to another, was a violation I couldn't stomach. But what were my options? Ultimatums? Therapy? Did we even have enough left to salvage? The questions swirled in my head, each one leading to a dead end. I paid for my breakfast, leaving a generous tip for the weary waitress who seemed to sense my distress. Outside, the harsh sunlight of a new day mocked my inner turmoil. I needed to talk to someone objective, someone who could help me navigate this minefield. My best friend, Mark, sprang to mind. He was a lawyer, level-headed and pragmatic, the kind of guy who could dissect a problem with ruthless efficiency. Maybe he could offer some clarity, some guidance. I pulled out my phone, my hand trembling as I dialed his number. He picked up on the second ring, his voice laced with concern. "Rob, is everything okay?" "Mark," I croaked, my voice thick with unshed hairs, "I need to see you. Something's happened. And as I poured out the whole sordid story, the events of the previous night, the betrayal, the confusion, the fear, a strange sense of relief washed over me. Finally, I wasn't alone in this nightmare. Appreciation. The word came out like a snarl. My entire life revolves around you. Every decision I make, every late night at work, it's all to build a future for us. I slammed my fists on the table, rattling the coffee cups. I bust my ass to provide for you, to give you the life you deserve, and you're telling me you feel unappreciated. Andrea flinched, her eyes wide with hurt. It's not about the material things, Rob, she said softly. It's about connection, about feeling desired, cherished. We barely talk anymore. We haven't been intimate in months. You're always working, always stressed. I feel like I've lost you already. Her words struck a chord, a painful resonance in the hollow space that had grown between us. It was true. Work had consumed me, the relentless pressure to succeed stealing my time and energy. Had I neglected her? Had I become so focused on building a future that I'd forgotten to nurture the present? The anger subsided, replaced by annoying guilt. I didn't realize, I stammered, my voice cracking. I thought I was doing it all for you. For us. I know you did. Rob, she said, reaching across the table to take my hand. But somewhere along the way, we lost sight of each other. I need this, Rob. I need to find myself again, to feel alive again. And maybe, just maybe, it will help us find our way back to each other. Her touch was a balm to my raw emotions. I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time since the bombshell in the restaurant. The pain in her eyes mirrored my own, a shared grief for the love we were losing. I don't understand how sleeping with other men will fix this, I whispered, my voice hoarse with emotion. It's not about the sex, Rob, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. It's about feeling desired, wanted. It's about rediscovering my own worth, my own sexuality. I need to know that I'm still attractive, that I'm still desirable, even outside of our relationship. Her honesty was disarming. This wasn't about a lack of love for me, but a desperate search for something she felt missing within herself. A part of me, the primal, possessive part, still raged against the idea. But another part, a deeper, more compassionate part, was beginning to understand. I don't know if I can do this, Andrea, I said, my voice heavy with uncertainty. But I'm willing to try. For us, a wave of nausea washed over me. The woman I loved, the woman who vowed to stand by my side, was essentially asking for a hall pass to explore her desires with other men, and she expected me to sit back and patiently await her return. Andrea, I said, my voice dangerously low, you're asking me to accept the unacceptable. You want the freedom to explore your sexuality, to potentially sleep with other men, while still retaining the comfort and security of our marriage. That's not how this works. I stood up, pacing the kitchen, the anger and hurt churning inside me. You talk about love, about family, but your actions speak of selfishness. You're prioritizing your needs, your desires, above our commitment, above our marriage. That's not fair. Rob, Andrea protested, her voice rising. I'm not trying to hurt you. I just I need this. I need to figure things out. And what about me? I whirled around, my voice cracking. What about my needs, my feelings? Do they not matter? Silence hung heavy in the air. Andrea looked down, her fingers twisting in her lap. I could see the conflict in her eyes, the struggle between her desires and the pain she was causing me. I don't know what to say, Rob, she whispered. Then listen, I said, my voice firm but controlled. I will not be a doormat in my own marriage. I will not stand by and watch you pursue relationships with other men. If you choose to go down this path, then you choose to leave our marriage. The words hung in the air, stark and irrevocable. Andrea's head snapped up, her eyes wide with shock. You single quotes . You're giving me an ultimatum, she stammered. Yes, I said, meeting her gaze. It's your choice, Andrea. Me. Or this exploration of yours. But you can't have both. The silence stretched, punctuated only by the ticking of the clock on the wall. Andrea's face was pale, her lips trembling. I could see the wheels turning in her head, weighing her desires against the potential loss of our marriage. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely a whisper. You're serious, aren't you? Never been more serious in my life, I replied. She closed her eyes, a single tear escaping and tracing a path down her cheek. Give me some time, Rob, she pleaded. I need to think, I nodded, the weight of our future pressing down on me. Take all the time you need, I said. But know this, Andrea, I love you, and I'm fighting for our marriage. I hope you are too. I watched her, my heart aching. This wasn't how our 5th anniversary was supposed to go. We were supposed to be celebrating our love, not fighting for its survival. But somewhere along the way, We'd lost our way. And now, we were standing at a crossroads, the future of our marriage hanging in the balance. I prayed that Andrea would choose us, choose the love we'd built together. But deep down, annoying fear whispered that the damage was already done, that the woman I loved was slipping away from me. The silence in the house was deafening. Every creak of the floorboards, every tick of the clock, seemed to amplify the emptiness. I wandered from room to room, a ghost in my own home, haunted by the ghost of our marriage. Work became my refuge. I buried myself in spreadsheets and financial reports, anything to distract myself from the gnawing pain in my chest. But even in the midst of complex audits, Andrea's face would swim into focus, her voice echoing in the quiet corners of my mind. Nights were the worst. The bed felt vast and cold without her, the silence broken only by the occasional passing car. Sleep was a fickle visitor, arriving in short, fitful bursts punctuated by nightmares of Andrea in the arms of another man. I tried to keep busy. I went to the gym religiously, pushing my body to exhaustion in a futile attempt to exorcise the emotional turmoil. I met Mark for drinks, forcing myself to socialize, to pretend that my world wasn't crumbling around me. But the laughter felt hollow, the camaraderie a pale imitation of the deep connection I craved. One evening, I found myself driving past our favorite restaurant, the scene of our disastrous anniversary dinner. A wave of grief washed over me, so intense that I had to pull over to the side of the road. I sat there, gripping the steering wheel, tears streaming down my face. The image of Andrea's tear-stained face burned into my memory. Why? Why was she doing this? Was our love not enough? Had I failed her in some fundamental way? The questions tormented me, offering no solace, only a deeper sense of despair. Days turned into weeks, and still, there was no word from Andrea. A part of me clung to the hope that she would come back, that she would realize the folly of her pursuit and return to the safety of our love. But another, more cynical part, whispered that she was gone for good, lost in the arms of another. The uncertainty was agonizing. I felt like a ship adrift, tossed about by the waves of grief and anger, with no land in sight. I needed answers, I needed closure, but all I had was silence. One Friday afternoon, I received a call from my lawyer. "Rob," she said, her voice grave, "I have some news. Andrea has filed for divorce." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. All the air rushed out of my lungs, leaving me gasping for breath. It was over. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I would spend the rest of my life with, had officially ended our marriage. The news triggered a strange mix of emotions. Relief, that the agonizing uncertainty was finally over. Anger, that she had given up on us so easily. And a profound sadness, a grief so deep it threatened to swallow me whole. As I hung up the phone, I realized that the battle for our marriage was lost. But the battle for my own healing, for my own future, had just begun. Andrea's blush deepened, a mixture of embarrassment and defiance flickering in her eyes. "That's none of your business, Rob," she retorted, her voice laced with a newfound confidence that both intrigued and infuriated me. "It is my business when it directly affects our marriage," I countered, my voice rising. "You're out there sleeping with other men, while still claiming to be my wife. How can you expect me to just ignore that?" "I told you, Rob," she said, her voice taking on a pleading tone, "this is something I need to do. It's not about you. It's about me finding myself. And what happens when you find yourself?" I asked, my voice laced with bitterness. "Do you just waltz back in here, expecting everything to be the same? Expecting me to welcome you back with open arms after you've been with God knows how many other men?" Andrea's eyes filled with tears. "I never meant to hurt you, Rob," she whispered. "I just I felt lost. I needed to feel desired, wanted. I needed to know that I was still attractive, that I still had something to offer, and you couldn't find that with me." I asked, the question a raw wound in my chest. She hesitated, her gaze dropping to the floor. "I don't know, Rob," she admitted, her voice barely audible. "We'd grown so distant. You were always working, always preoccupied. I felt like I was losing you, even before I left." Her words struck a chord, echoing the doubts that had plagued me since our fateful anniversary dinner. Had I neglected her? Had I become so consumed with building a future that I'd forgotten to nurture our present? "I know I haven't been the perfect husband, Andrea," I said, my voice softening, But I never stopped loving you. I never stopped wanting you. She looked up, a flicker of hope in her eyes. Really? Really? I confirmed, stepping closer. But I can't do this, Andrea. I can't share you with other men. It's tearing me apart. A tense silence fell between us. Andrea's face was a canvas of conflicting emotions: hope, fear, uncertainty. Finally, she spoke, her voice trembling. What do you want me to do, Rob? Come home, I said, my voice filled with longing. Come back to me. Let's work on our marriage. Let's find our way back to each other. Tears streamed down Andrea's face. Oh, Rob, she sobbed, reaching out to touch my arm. I miss you so much. I miss us. I pulled her close, holding her tight, the scent of her hair filling my senses. It was a tentative embrace, fragile as a newborn bird, but it was a start. I know, sweetheart, I whispered, stroking her hair. I miss you too. We stood there for a long moment, clinging to each other, the weight of the past weeks pressing down on us. But there was also a glimmer of hope, a fragile spark of possibility. We had a long road ahead of us, a journey of healing and rediscovery. But in that embrace, I felt a renewed determination to fight for our love, to reclaim the future we'd almost lost. Andrea's blush deepened, her eyes darting around the garage as if searching for an escape route. That's really not something we need to discuss, Rob, she mumbled, her voice barely above a whisper. Oh, I think it is, I pressed, unable to keep the edge out of my voice. You seem to be perfectly comfortable discussing your needs with me, but when it comes to the actual details of your explorations, suddenly it's off limits. The silence stretched, thick with tension. Andrea finally met my gaze, a flicker of defiance in her eyes. It's different, she insisted. Talking about my needs is one thing, but the specifics. That's private, I scoffed. You're sharing the most intimate parts of yourself with other men, but you can't share a few details with your own husband. It's not about sharing, Rob, she said, her voice taking on a pleading tone. It's about protecting you. I don't want to hurt you with the details. Protecting me. I laughed bitterly. You already hurt me more than you can possibly imagine. A few details about your sex life with other men aren't going to make much difference. Andrea flinched, her eyes welling up with tears. You're being cruel, Rob, she whispered. Am I? I countered, my voice rising. Or am I just being honest? You're the one who decided to throw our marriage away, to chase after some fleeting thrill. And now you expect me to sit here and pretend that everything's fine. Andrea's tears spilled over, tracing paths down her cheeks. I never wanted to hurt you, Rob, she sobbed. I just I needed something more. Something I wasn't getting from you, and you think you'll find it in the arms of some stranger. I asked, my voice thick with emotion. I don't know, Rob, she admitted, her voice barely audible. I just I had to try. The honesty in her voice disarmed me. For the first time, I saw a glimpse of the vulnerability beneath Andrea's newfound confidence. She wasn't just a woman seeking pleasure. She was a woman lost and searching, desperate for something she couldn't define. I don't understand it, Andrea, I said, my voice softening. I don't understand how you could throw away everything we have for this. I know, Rob, she whispered, her gaze fixed on the floor. And I'm so sorry. The apology hung in the air, heavy with regret. We stood there in silence, the weight of our broken promises pressing down on us. The garage, with its neatly packed boxes, felt like a tomb, a monument to the love we'd lost. As Andrea turned to leave, I felt a surge of desperation. I couldn't let her go. Not like this, Andrea. Wait, I called out, my voice hoarse. She stopped, her shoulders slumped, her head bowed. I don't know what the future holds, I said, my voice trembling. But I know I don't want to lose you, if there's even a chance that we can salvage this. I want to try. Andrea slowly turned, her eyes wide with surprise. Rob. I know it won't be easy, I continued, stepping closer. We have a lot to work through. But I'm willing to fight for us, if you are. A flicker of hope ignited in Andrea's eyes. You. You really mean that? I do, I said, reaching out to take her hand. Come home, Andrea. Come back to me. Tears streamed down her face as she nodded, her hand trembling in mine. Okay, Rob, she whispered. I'll come home. In that moment, the garage, with its boxes and memories, transformed from a tomb to a sanctuary. We had a long road ahead of us, a journey fraught with pain and uncertainty. But as I held Andrea close, I felt a surge of hope, a belief that maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back to each other. Andrea stood on the doorstep, her face a mask of fury. What is the meaning of this? She spat, thrusting the envelope towards me. I took it, feigning surprise. I don't know what you're talking about, I said calmly. Don't play coy with me, Rob. She snarled. This, she gestured towards the envelope. This divorce petition. How dare you? How dare I? I echoed, my voice rising. You're the one who walked out on our marriage, Andrea. You're the one who decided to sleep with other men. I told you, she said, her voice shaking with anger. I needed to do this for myself. I needed to find myself. And did you find yourself, Andrea? I asked, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Did you find what you were looking for in the arms of those men? Andrea flinched, her eyes hardening. That's none of your business, she retorted. It became my business the moment you decided to betray our marriage, I countered. You broke your vows, Andrea. You broke my heart. And now you're surprised that I'm filing for divorce. But I was coming back, she cried, her voice cracking. I was going to come back to you. Oh really? I scoffed. And when exactly were you planning on gracing me with your return? After you'd slept with every man in the city. Andrea's face flushed with anger. You're being disgusting, Rob. She spat. No, Andrea, I said, my voice low and dangerous. You're the disgusting one. You're the one who threw away our love, our future, for a few cheap thrills. I never stopped loving you. She protested, tears welling up in her eyes. Then why did you do it, Andrea? I asked, my voice breaking. Why did you hurt me like this? Andrea's shoulders slumped, her anger deflating like a punctured balloon. I don't know, Rob, she whispered, her voice choked with sobs. I was lost. I was confused. I made a mistake. A mistake, I repeated, the word echoing in the sudden silence. A mistake that cost us our marriage, Andrea. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with pain and regret. I know, Rob, she said, her voice barely a whisper. And I'm so sorry. The apology was too little, too late. The damage was done, the trust shattered. I looked at the woman I once loved, the woman who had shared my dreams, my life, and all I felt was a profound sadness. I can't forgive you, Andrea, I said, my voice heavy with grief. Not now, maybe not ever, she nodded, tears streaming down her face. I understand, she whispered, and with that, she turned and walked away, leaving me standing on the doorstep, the divorce petition clutched in my hand, the echoes of our shattered love ringing in my ears. The house felt colder than ever, the silence a constant reminder of the life we had lost. But as I closed the door, a strange sense of peace washed over me. The chapter of Andrea was finally closing, and it was time for me to start a new one. Life had a funny way of turning the page, didn't it? A year ago, I was drowning in a sea of betrayal and heartbreak. Now, I was standing on the precipice of a new chapter, one filled with love, commitment, and the promise of a family. Diane was everything Andrea wasn't. She was kind, compassionate, and fiercely loyal. She was my rock, my confidant, my lover, and soon, she would be my wife, the mother of my child. The news of Andrea's pregnancy and STD had reached me through the grapevine. A part of me, the petty part, couldn't help but feel a flicker of satisfaction. Karma, I supposed, but mostly, I just felt sorry for her. She'd made her choices, and now she was facing the consequences. I had no desire to gloat, no desire to rub salt in the wound. I just wanted to move on, to build a life with Diane, a life built on trust, respect, and unwavering love. The wedding was a small, intimate affair, held in a beautiful garden overlooking the ocean. Diane was radiant in her white dress, her smile brighter than the sun. As we exchanged vows, I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me. I had found my soulmate, my partner in crime, the woman who truly deserved my heart. The months that followed were a whirlwind of joy and anticipation. We decorated the nursery, attended prenatal classes, and dreamed of the future. Diane's pregnancy progressed smoothly, and we were both filled with excitement for the arrival of our little one. And then, one cold December night, our baby girl was born. Holding her in my arms, I felt a love so fierce, so overwhelming, that it brought tears to my eyes. This tiny human, this miracle, was the culmination of all the heartache and pain, the proof that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope. Life with Diane and our daughter was everything I had ever dreamed of. We were a family, a true partnership, built on a foundation of love and mutual respect. We faced challenges, of course, but we faced them together, stronger and more united than ever. And as I watched Diane cradle our daughter, her face glowing with maternal love, I knew that I had finally found my happily ever after. The journey had been long and arduous, filled with twists and turns I could never have anticipated. But it had led me to where I was meant to be, in the arms of the woman I loved, with the family I'd always longed for. The past was a distant memory, a faded scar on my heart. Andrea was a ghost, a shadow in the rearview mirror. My future was with Diane, with our daughter, with the life we were building together, brick by brick, love by love. And in that future, there was only happiness, only hope, only the unwavering certainty that I had finally found my way home.